واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I think we're all snowed in today. Let's try again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakumullah khairan for attending and for sticking around on this nice, beautiful day in this on this holiday weekend. It's always good to invest our time into ourselves in every way, right? A person should invest themselves or their time in their growth physically, their growth, mentally, growth physically by, exercising, not by eating more. Mentally by reading more, and spiritually by attending and listening to and benefiting from gatherings of knowledge. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in an authentic narration that's very beautiful. He said that you are passing by the gardens of Jannah, فَارْتَعُوا فِيهَا. You should take from them. So the Sahaba asked, what are these gardens of Jannah, O Messenger of Allah? And the Messenger of Allah said, they are the gatherings of remembrance. The gatherings of remembrance, he likened them to a garden of paradise. Because it grows a person spiritually. It increases our conviction and our faith. It gives us incentive to act and live our lives as Muslims. That is why the Messenger likened it to a garden of paradise. Because essentially it will take you to paradise, inshallah. And he also said that whoever treads a path seeking knowledge, that whoever treads a path seeking to learn the religion, because of that, because of their effort to tread that path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes their path to Jannah easy. So this is a very beautiful thing to invest ourselves in, to take the time out of our days, to learn about our religion, to learn what the Prophet ﷺ said, to learn what the Quran says. This is an investment in ourselves and in our akhirah. We ask Allah to make us of those who see the fruits of that investment. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. The topic that I have to share with you is my friend's best advice. My friend's best advice. More precisely, my best friend's advice. This is based out of a hadith of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who said to the people who were around him, he said to them, Amarani Khalili sallallahu alayhi wasallam bi sab'a. My best friend gave me advice and told me to do 7 things. So that's where the title comes from. So I'll read the hadith first, and then we'll talk about what the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam advised Abu Dhar, specifically and in more detail. He said that Amarani Khalili sallallahu alayhi wasallam bi sab'a. Amarani bi hubbil masakina wa dunuwi minhum. My best friend advised me and told me to do 7 things. Number 1, he advised me and commanded me to love the poor and to be close to them. That's number 1. Okay. Number 2, amarani an anzura ila man huwa duni wala anzura ila man huwa fawqi. Number 2, he said I should look at those who are below me in stature and wealth, and not those who are above me. Number 3, amarani an asila rahima wa in adbarat. He told me to maintain family ties, even if family does not want to keep ties with me. Number 4, amarani alla as'ala ahadan shay'an. He told me that I shouldn't ask anybody for anything. Number 5, amarani an aqula bil haqqi wa in kana murran. He told me that I should speak the truth at all times, even if that truth is bitter. It's not convenient. It's not convenient to tell the truth. It's very inconvenient at that point. He said I should tell the truth even if it is inconvenient, even if it is bitter. وَأَمَرَنِي أَلَّا أَخَافَ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. Number 6, he told me that I shouldn't fear anyone's criticisms or anybody's perception of me when it comes to my practice of my faith. And number 7, وَأَمَرَنِي أَنْ أُكْثِرَ مِنْ قَوْلِي لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And he told me that I should say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah a lot, because innahunna min kanzin tahta al-arsh. that this statement is a treasure from the treasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a treasure from under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means that this is a very, very amazing statement. You cannot even measure the worth of it. That's how amazing it is. Those are the 7 things he mentioned, and that was this hadith, by the way, is in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, and it is authentically narrated. So this hadith, what we see from it is, number 1, how the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is described by Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. He doesn't say the Rasulullah said to me, or the Prophet of Allah or Nabiullah said this. He doesn't say that. He says, Amarani Khalili, my best friend told me and advised me to do these things, which tells you of the relationship that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had with the Sahaba. That he had such a good relationship with them that after he had passed away, not only did they love and respect him as a messenger and as somebody that they aspired to be like, but the closeness they felt to him was like the closeness of a best friend. And this is not the only Sahabi who feels that way. There is Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who says in another narration that Amarani Khalili Awsani Khalili bi thalatha. My best friend told me that I should always do 3 things. Okay? So same kind of exactly the same word, the same sentiment from another Sahabi. We have another beautiful narration from Amr ibn al-As. Amr ibn al-As, if you don't remember, is somebody who was at the forefront of fighting the Prophet ﷺ, and he was one of the commanders of the army of Quraysh, along with Khalid ibn al-Walid, against the Messenger ﷺ, and inflicted heavy damages and losses upon the Muslims in the Battle of Uhud. So eventually he comes around and accepts Islam after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Right? So he's been adversarial to the Prophet ﷺ for, say, about 15 years. Right? A little bit, sometime in the beginning not so much. Towards the end, he is leading the war. He's one of the generals against the war. But he comes around and he accepts Islam and becomes one of the great Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. But the interesting thing is, brothers and sisters, is that when he accepted Islam, here he's saying that the person I hated the most was the Prophet ﷺ before Islam. And the person I loved most after I became Muslim was the Prophet ﷺ. That was his transformation. But then a very interesting thing happened one day. He's sitting with the Messenger ﷺ, and he out of nowhere asks the Messenger ﷺ, Man ahabbu nasi ilayk? Who is the person that you love the most? And the Messenger replied, anybody know what his reply was? Or who that person is? No, person, man, not. The answer is Aisha, right? Radiallahu anha. He said Aisha, which is amazing. You could tell people that you love your wife. It's okay, brothers. Alright? But then he said, no, from the men. He said from the men. Who is it that, not like you, I know you love your wife, that's okay. But from the men, who do you love? And then the Messenger said, it is, who it is? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, right? Her father, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu. Okay, interesting narration. The thing that's very interesting that's mentioned is that Amr ibn al-As asked this question because the way the Prophet ﷺ treated him, despite being an enemy and an adversary for so many years, when he finally accepted Islam, the Prophet ﷺ treated him with such love and kindness that Amr was like, am I like the most loved Sahabi? That's what he thought. And that's why he asked the Prophet ﷺ, because he was so moved by the way the Prophet ﷺ would look at him, would talk to him, would treat him, that he legitimately thought that he was that person. But of course it wasn't him, it was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Which tells you that the Messenger ﷺ looked at and treated everybody in his gathering with such love and respect and with such kindness that this person who just became Muslim thinks that, the Messenger is loving him more than anybody else. That tells you of the character of the Prophet ﷺ, right? So this is a very, very beautiful trait, and we see a glimpse of that in how the Sahaba describe the Prophet ﷺ. Not just how, because we don't see the Prophet ﷺ, we haven't met the Prophet ﷺ, we don't know what it was like to live with him day to day. But we have glimpses of it, and the glimpse that we see is it's a person who had extreme love and care for those who were around him, to the point where they describe him as as their best friend, describe him as, or think that he really, really loves them more than anybody else. So that is number one. Number two, we see that the 7 things that Abu Dhar al-Ghifari was told by the Messenger ﷺ. 7 things. Number 1 is loving the people who are poor. حُبِّ الْمَسَاكِينَ وَالدُّنُوِ مِنْهُمْ, and being close to them. Now, what's interesting is, it's not this, the Messenger said, you should take care of the poor. Right? He didn't say, أَمَرَنِي خَلِيلِي أَنْ أُرَاعِيَ بِالْمَسَاكِينَ, right? That I should be taking care of the poor. No, he said, he told me to love the poor. And there is a significant difference there, brothers and sisters. Taking care of the orphan, or taking care of the poor person, is fairly straightforward. You can just hand them some money. You can just put some payment on like recurring basis that gets, that's withdrawn from your account and goes to somebody who's poor. You can automatically set that up and not be bothered by it, right? It's a fairly hands-off approach. But loving the poor requires that we go the extra level. And in fact, he said, loving the poor, وَالدُّنُوِ مِنْهُمْ, and to get close to them. Meaning that we should be close to them in the sense that we should know what is it that they are going through, what is it that ails them, what does it feel like to be in that situation. Like, we live in very sheltered, protected environments. We're all like, fairly luxurious lives, right? We go to our homes as luxury, we sit in our car, fair amount of luxury, we pull out a phone from our pockets, that's a sign of luxury. There's a lot of good things in there. There's a lot of really, really, we were surrounded by so many good things that we forget what it's like when things are bad. And even if you've never seen bad times, you just have no idea what it's like to be in that situation, right? You have no clue. So to be close to the people who are poor, and doing this out of love, not because you have like sympathy and you feel sorry for them. No, because you have a genuine care and concern for them. That's what the Messenger ﷺ told Abu Dhar to be like. That's how our attitude should be. And I have a friend who said something really nice. He said, if you have riches that are material, if you have material richness, there's a very good chance that you have spiritual poverty. You know what that means? So if you have a lot of good stuff around you, there's a very high chance that you have spiritual poverty, because you don't know what other people are going through. You don't realize what kind of blessings it is that you're taking for granted, that others would literally die for. We just don't realize how lucky we are in those, and how blessed we are in those circumstances. So when we have a closeness to the people who are poor, we don't have this spiritual poverty. We have, spiritual richness as well. Because then when we see their situation, we're like, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, everything is so good in my life. Alhamdulillah, Allah has given so much to me, and I need to do more for these people. That becomes the way we look at things. I was, sometimes, you get busy with life, you get busy with like quabbles and this, that, and the other, and then you don't know what, why you're upset at something or somebody, right? But then you get to hear about someone who can't pay their bill, or can't pay their rent, for example, who has a family member that's trapped in a refugee camp somewhere in the Middle East, and they can't get them out, right? You hear of somebody who has, a chronic disease, and they are, disabled, and life is tough. They can barely make ends meet. They're very, they can't do anything. Their potential has been severely hampered. So what happens then, right? When you look at real situations of difficulty of people, that makes us realize, what are we complaining about? Why are we so angry? Why are we always like being negative? Why are we complaining about this is not right and that's not right? That's the sign that when someone is doing that, that's a sign that they don't understand how much blessings they have. And the Messenger taught us, and in fact the first thing he teaches Abu Dhar is be close to those who are in need so that you know how much you have. Number two, so number one is to love the poor and be close to them. Number two is an andura ila man huwa duni wa la andura ila man huwa fawqi, that I look at those who are below me and not those who are above me. Related, right? These two things are related. Look at one who is above me in the sense, look at the one who's below me in the sense that they have less money, they have less things, less privilege, and not at the one who has more. That's what the Messenger ﷺ said to Abu Huraira. And if you think about this, this is such beautiful advice again. It goes back to that whole idea of being rich spiritually, not having that spiritual poverty. I remember when I was in Egypt, I had we were living in this apartment, and we had this the bellman, right? Like he would, this guy would live in the basement, and he had his family there, and he would take care of little things here and there. What happened was that you look at that person, you look at how he's living, you look at his kid, and then we would be complaining about things, we would be getting upset at things, we would be thinking, oh man, this person has this and you don't have that. And then you look at someone like that, and they're living a very stress-free life. They have worries, but they're happy. And when you look at someone like that, it makes you realize what? It makes you realize that there is so much that we have, that we take for granted. It's unbelievable. That's what it is. I have a friend who bought a very expensive car. He didn't tell anybody. He bought a car and he's driving in it. One day I go to meet him, and he shows up in it. I'm like, whoa man, you bought an Audi R8? That's amazing, mashallah. Okay, and he's driving that car. It's got 600 horsepower, and wow, I was like, this is unbelievable, right? Now this is one of my best friends. I love him like a brother, right? When I saw his car, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I could have a car like that. I wish I could. That's when it starts to happen. Even when you genuinely love somebody, and you have nothing but goodness in your heart for that person, when you start to look at all the things that they possess, all of a sudden the things that I have seem insignificant. That's what's going to happen. And that's why the Messenger told Abu Dhar, do not do that. What's interesting is the Messenger said in a very beautiful hadith that man asbaha minkum معافا في جسده من أصبح منكم آمنا في سربه معافا في جسده عنده قوت يومه فكأنما حيزت له الدنيا. The person who has the following three things. Number one, they have peace and security. They know that when they step out of the masjid, they step out of the house, they won't get killed or something. Their house is safe, their neighborhood is safe, everything is good. That's what we are, right? We enjoy safety and security. The person has good health. Mu'afan fi jasadihi. There's nothing that ails this person long term. Okay? Indahu qutu yawmihi. This person has food for the day. Just food for the day. Not even like lots of money or whatever. Just food for the day. If you have these three things, the Messenger says, كَأَنَّمَا حِيزَتْ لَهُ الدُّنْيَا. It's as if this person is so blessed, all of the world has been presented to that person. Gathered and presented to that person. Just these three blessings. Think about it. It shows us how much we have to thank Allah for our blessings and how much we take for granted. Our health, our peace and security, the fact that you don't have to worry about food, you open the fridge and you can have a choice. Yeah, you have a menu or what's there, right? Sometimes people open their fridge to complain, how come there's no Coke? I don't like Sprite, I don't like 7-Up. That's unacceptable, right? That's unacceptable. That kind of a line of thought is just something that is not befitting of a believer. And what helps in understanding and realizing our blessings is we look at those who have less than us, not those who have more. Because there's no end to who has more. There's always going to be somebody who has more, right? Someone's going to have more money, more cars, more this, that, and the other. So you will always be unsatisfied. So we in turn be thankful for the blessings that Allah has given us, and that comes by looking at that. Number 2 was that. Number 3 was أمرني أن أصل الرحم وإن أدبرت. Number 3, he told me that I should take care of family, even if family turns away from me. This is a very interesting point. That if somebody turns away and doesn't want to do anything with us, we don't say, forget you, man, I have nothing to do with you either. We don't do that. That's not how a believer is supposed to be. If a person is upset, as a believer, we're supposed to reach out to them and say, okay, what happened? Okay, I'd like to reconcile. Is it something that I did? Something I said? Is it my face? I don't know what it is. Why are you so mad at me? Okay, this is part of the process. And if somebody, for whatever reason, just wants to stay mad, they don't want to reconcile, it's okay. That's their choice. You at least made the effort to reach out. This is the point that we have to focus on. That we have to make the effort to reach out to people, particularly family members. Make sure that we're on good terms with them, and not to let little things get in the way. Right? I don't actually have any brothers or sisters. I'm actually the only child. Shocking, huh? Somebody who's Desi is only child. But my wife obviously has, mashallah, many siblings. So I see like the family politics and whatnot, like the sister is saying this, or someone said to their son, or someone said this to their daughter, and their in-laws and this, and I'm like, this is so weird, man. Like, I thought you were family, right? How can you say that? Or how can that person say that about you? Or how could this person say this? I thought you were family, right? Because I don't understand the dynamics of what it's like to have a sibling. But like the siblings, when like my sister-in-laws fight sometimes, their fights are the worst, right? They don't talk for days. Like I would be angry at my friend, and then 2 days later we'll be like, having coffee together or something. But when 2 sisters are fighting, 2 brothers are fighting, they don't talk for a while. And this is something that is, unfortunately, I don't know, maybe it's the nature of the relationship. I don't know exactly what it is, but that is the case. So the point is, in a situation where 2 people, brother and sister, or 2 sisters, or 2 brothers have had a fight, the better of the 2 is the one who reaches out to reconcile. And that's what the messenger said. You should reconcile even if the other party does not want to, right? You should reach out even if they don't want to accept your hand. What's interesting also is, think about this. Like, this was an interesting point, that the word our family, right? Who chooses family? Like, do you choose your brother? Did you say, this is going to be my brother? Right? You wish you did that, huh? You don't choose your siblings. You don't choose who is related to you by blood. You can choose your wife or husband, right? But you can't choose your family members. You can't choose who your father is or your mother is. That was chosen by Allah, wasn't it? Right? That link was not made by you. That DNA connection, you had nothing to do with it. That was made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So if you think about this, when someone is saying, this brother of mine is just the worst person, I want nothing to do with him, what are you like saying? Like, are you saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a mistake here in making this person your brother? Right? Is there something wrong in that equation? And the answer is, that's why family ties have to be kept, because they were chosen by Allah, and being good to them is an extension of our goodness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. More so of the parents, but also just as much to anybody who is related to us by blood. That's number 3. Amarani an asila rahim wa in adbarat. Number 4, amarani alla as'ala ahadan shay'an. He told me, number 4, that I should not ask anything of anybody. Why is this important, right? Like asking, if I say, like, Hamid, could you please get me a glass of water or something? That's not haram, right? That's totally acceptable. But what does the messenger refer to when he says this? What he's referring to is an explanation of Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in, right? You know what the ayah means? Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. Iyaka na'budu means you alone we worship, and Iyaka nasta'in means you alone we ask for help. Correct? Surah Fatiha is important to know, brothers and sisters. We should know it. So, 2 things. Is it haram to worship someone besides Allah?
Yes.
Of course, that's the whole point of Islam. You're supposed to worship only Allah. Correct? Is it haram to ask somebody for something? Is it? Of course not. I just said, right? Clearly it isn't. So why does Allah say both things in the same ayah? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Right? Think about it. Why does Allah say you alone we worship and you alone we ask for help? Why are both of those things in the same ayah when you can worship anybody, but you can ask stuff from people, right? Why does Allah mention that? There's wisdom. Number one, the obvious one is there's things that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do, and that's only you ask that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, like forgiveness and salvation in the akhirah, and the asking Him to fix your life and set you straight and all that stuff. That's fine, right? But also, not asking anybody particularly refers to not depending on other people, right? Not depending on other people to, do favors for us. Not depending on other people to make opportunities for us. Not waiting on others to do something for us. Because if you wait for people and you rely on people, you will be disappointed. That's the bottom line. But if you trust Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of the things that I don't control. I will do whatever I can when it comes to what I control, but whatever it is that I don't control, that is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not, let me go to waste. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make sure that He will bring me to a situation that is long-term very good for me. When you have that outlook in life, then you don't expect any favors from anybody. You will just go about your business. You will go about doing what you have to do. You will go about, whatever it is that you are aiming for, you just go ahead and do it. And that's what إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ refers to. That we live life as if the only thing we need is Allah's help. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send people to help us along the way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send people that will help open doors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send people that will help us in things that are difficult. He will send people to support us. He will send people to, help us in whatever that we're trying to do. But if you're trying to get people, that's a problem. You should try to get help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the idea. وَأَلَّا أَسْأَلَ أَحَدًا شَيْئًا. This is a very, very important thing, and I don't know, I personally feel like when I read this before, I didn't get it when I was young. But when I went through some stuff in life, that's when I realized what it actually means. To just rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not expect anything from anybody else. So, Allah as'ala ahadan shay'an. This is one of those things that you have to live it to be able to fully grasp its implications. Number 4 and number 5 was Amarani Allah an aqula bilhaqqi wa in kana murran. He told me to say the truth even if it is bitter. Telling the truth when it is convenient. Little kid, stop. Stop it. No, don't do it. No. Good job. Sit down. Oh, okay, never mind. Alright. He's having fun. MashaAllah. Thank you, sister. Okay, so telling the truth when it is convenient is very easy, right? So say a brother and a sister have a fight, or two brothers have a fight, right? So the guy who is who's not in trouble can very easily tell the truth, right? Because he has everything to gain by telling the truth. But it's difficult to tell the truth when you have everything to lose or something to lose, right? Classic example, when you go to the border, right? You're trying to cross over to the US and the border guard asks you, why are you going? And people, because they're afraid of getting stopped, or there's paranoia and whatnot, they say things that are not true at that time, right? Oh, I'm just going to see a friend. When you're not going to see a friend, you're going to give a job interview. That person is not your friend, okay? Don't make up stuff. You see? Even bringing stuff over from say overseas, in your car, in your luggage, people often don't declare stuff, right? Because if I declare it, I'll be questioned about it. I was coming back from Hajj many years ago, and when you come back from Hajj, you bring dates, right? or every time you come back from Saudi, you have to bring dates. So I was going to not declare anything, right? Because I didn't want to get questioned about what I have in my bag, right? But my teacher was with me, and he's writing, he's like, yes, I have, food in my luggage. And I'm like, bro, why are you doing that, man? They're going to stop you and waste your time. And he's looked at me, he said, you think I'm going to lie after doing Hajj? After I've done Hajj, you want me to lie on this form? Subhanallah, right? This is an amazing attitude, right? That's how a believer's attitude should be. We tell the truth, even if it is inconvenient. Just small inconveniences I just mentioned, right? But even when it is a big inconvenience, we can even get you in trouble. The truth is the truth. أَنْ أَقُولَ بِالْحَقِّ وَإِنْ كَانَ مُرًّا. Because see, that's a habit, and there's a credibility. The person who tells the truth, they have a reputation. And then over the course of time, their reputation will save them. The person who lies will develop the reputation of what? Of a liar. And over time, even though right now they get away with it, over time they will pay for that. This is a very important aspect of telling the truth, that it is something that will build your credibility long term. Number 6 and number 7 quickly, because I don't want to take too much of your time. أَمَرَنِي أَلَّا أَخْوَافَ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. I don't be afraid of practicing Islam the way it's supposed to be practiced. And I'm not afraid of what people think of me as a Muslim. If I have to pray and I'm at the mall or I'm at the airport, right? Airport's more sensitive, right? Because the mall, no one cares. Everyone's just walking around. But the airport, we're praying and we're like, oh, what's this guy doing? Right? I will do what I have to do for the sake of my religion, and I will not be afraid. Now, I'm not going to be, there's an element of pragmatism, right? I will not, for example, pray on American Airlines going to Dallas. I will not stand up and pray there, because probably the plane will be landed and they will take me to jail or something. But I will pray at the terminal, right? I will not have any hesitation in that. People will look at me weird. It's okay. There's no problem in that. I will not hesitate. For example, sometimes I fly by Emirates, and the stewardess is going to give me the dirtiest looks. But I don't care. You live in Dubai. You know what it's like for people to pray. I'm praying here after asking your permission. Okay? There is pragmatism, right? Of course, we live in an environment where sometimes, there is excessive fear of Islam, and we have to be cautious of that, right? We can't just be blind and dumb about things, right? We have to be careful of that. But then there is aspects of Islam where we practice it, where there is no fear of any repercussions, but there's just a little bit of a shame, a little bit of embarrassment, right? That is the part where we say, no, there should be no shame, no embarrassment. We have to practice the religion without embarrassment. If there's a legitimate concern, like a sister who wears hijab, okay, and they have to, for example, they have to pray in like a public setting. That's a conversation we can have privately. Okay, where can you get off and pray safely, right? Does it make sense for you to even pray publicly, particularly in the charged environment that we live, right? That's a different conversation, okay? Because safety is very, very paramount, and we're not being silly. But if you're just embarrassed to pray, if you're just like, you don't want to be looked at weird, there's no room for that. There's no room for that. We are to practice Islam without embarrassment. أَلَّا أَخَافَ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. It's a fine line, right? It's a very fine line, and you can judge for yourself where it is, this is embarrassing, versus this is actually maybe going to be a problem. Right? Those two things, you are the best judge of it, but the Prophet taught us that we should not be embarrassed of our faith. And that's something that we should all strive towards. Last thing is that أَمَرَنِي أَنْ أُكْثِرَ مِنْ قَوْلِ لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. He told me to say لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ many, many times. This is a very beautiful statement. لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ means there's no power, there's no true power except with Allah. Meaning, whatever good happens, that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed it. If something bad happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had also willed it. So He will take you through it if He brought you to it. That is what this statement reassures us. So these are the 7 things that Abu Dhar says, my best friend told me. Number 1, to love the poor. Number two, to look at those who are below me and not those who are above me. These two things create in our hearts the gratitude that we need, the thankfulness that we need to have for the blessings that we enjoy. And then from that, the care to help others. This is how a believer is supposed to be. Number three, he told me to keep family ties, even if family doesn't want to keep ties with me. Number four, that I rely only on Allah. Don't ask anybody for anything, trusting in Allah only. Number five, to say the truth even if it is bitter. Number six, to not be embarrassed of faith, not be embarrassed of practicing Islam. And number seven, to remember Allah a lot by saying La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. I'll conclude with a very beautiful story of when it comes to taking care of somebody who is needy and poor. And it shows like all these traits that were described, it shows how that affects a person's character, right? So there's a story of Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Abdullah ibn Mubarak was a person who lived in the second generation of Islam after the Sahaba. Meaning that he saw the Sahaba, but he didn't see the Prophet ﷺ. So Abdullah ibn Mubarak was going for Hajj, okay? And back in the day, you would go for Hajj by camel, right? So he's going for Hajj, and he's going in the group. They all have, they're all on camels, and they're all going, and he has some money. And then they notice that there's a bird that fell out of the sky because it died, and it fell somewhere. So they were like, oh look, a bird just fell out of the sky, interesting. And the next thing they know, there's like a little girl who comes out of her tent, wherever she was staying, and she comes out and grabs that dead bird. And she's quickly running away with that bird into her makeshift home. So Abdullah ibn Mubarak is very intrigued by that. He says, why would this girl do this? So he goes to her and says, okay, why would you do this, little girl? She says that, my situation is that I have a brother and I have a father who had money, and he was somebody who was taking care of us, but then he was robbed and killed. And here we are by ourselves with nobody to take care of us. We had money, we were fine before, now we have nothing. And this is the only food that we have, and we haven't eaten for many a days. And she said that ليس نقوت إلا ما يلقى على هذه المزبلة وقد حلتنا الميتة منذ أيام. She said that we've been in such a difficult situation, therefore many days we're allowed to Islamically consume meat that is like roadkill. Islamically you're not supposed to consume like a bird just fell out of the sky. You can't eat that. If a cow just died, you can't eat that. It's mayta. It's not slaughtered. It's not meant to be consumed, except if you are starving and you're about to die. So she says for days we're in the situation where we can consume things that are haram otherwise, but in this situation, because it's a matter of life and death, we have to consume it. So she's like, this is our situation. So Abdullah bin Mubarak turns to his people, and he's like, how much money do we have, all of us together? They're like, we have about 1,000 dinars. Okay? So then he says, how much is it that we need to sustain our journey back to where we came from, right? Well, they're like, about 20 dinars, right? That's all we'll need for us to be able to pay ourselves back, or to be able to buy supplies and do whatever we need to do to be able to return back to our homes. He said, keep the 20 and give the rest to this girl, and we'll go back home. We won't go for Hajj, because this is better than Hajj. Subhanallah. This, helping this girl, helping this boy, her brother, who have nothing to eat, who have, whose father has been killed wrongly, whose money has been robbed from them, helping them is more of a priority than going for Hajj. So give them the money, take whatever we need so we can go back home. That pays for our trip. And he did that. And they all went back. Subhanallah. They didn't make Hajj that year. This is the kind of gesture. This is the kind of character that we are encouraged to develop. the kind of care we're supposed to show towards others. And this is a reflection of the Prophet's character and his teachings. We ask Allah to make us of those who can live up to these 7 things that I mentioned, whose character embodies and reflects the character of the Prophet ﷺ, and where we are thankful to Allah for what we have, and because of the thank that we have for Allah, we are able to take care of others who don't have a lot, and put them and make them a priority. We ask Allah to make us of those people. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. If there's any questions or comments, we can take them now, inshallah. Yes, brother.